Help me reach 3,000 subscribers. Hit like and leave a comment. I really do read them all. The kitchen smelled like burnt toast and yesterday's coffee, a sour tang that stuck in the air. I was leaning against the counter, scrolling through emails on my phone, trying to make sense of my boss's vague notes about a project I'd already submitted. Sarah walked in, her heels clicking on the hardwood like she was making a point. She didn't look at me, just yanked open the fridge and let out a sigh sharp enough to cut through the morning quiet. "Tom, you didn't get the groceries, did you?" Her voice was clipped, like she'd already convicted me. I set my phone down, the screen still glowing with unread messages. "I worked late, Sarah. You knew that. You could have swung by the store yourself." She slammed the fridge door, the jars rattling inside. "Right? Because I'm supposed to handle everything while you're off playing big shot at the office." I stirred my coffee, the spoon clinking against the mug. "Everything? I paid the mortgage last week. Fixed the garage door. Took your car for an oil change. You want me to keep going? Or is that enough to jog your memory?" Her lips curled into that smirk, the one she used when she thought she'd scored a hit. "Oh wow, Tom. Should I throw you a parade? Maybe a gold star?" I leaned forward, elbows on the counter, my eyes locked on hers. "If you've got a problem, say it straight. Don't dance around it like I'm too slow to notice." She crossed her arms, her nails tapping against her sleeve. "You're so defensive. I'm just saying, it'd be nice if you pulled your weight without me having to beg." "Pull my weight." I raised an eyebrow, setting the mug down with a deliberate clink. "I'm keeping the lights on, Sarah. You want groceries? Grab a card. I'm not your errand boy." She opened her mouth, then snapped it shut, snatching her purse off the counter. "Forget it. I'm meeting Claire. Try not to burn the house down while I'm gone." The door slammed, the sound bouncing off the walls. I stood there, staring at the coffee grounds stuck to the bottom of my mug. That smirk, that tone, it wasn't new, but it was sharper now, like she was testing how far she could push before I pushed back. I'd seen it before, little jabs in front of friends, eye rolls when I talked about work, jokes that landed like punches. This morning, it felt like a warning. Like she was rewriting the rules of our marriage, and I was supposed to just sign off. If I'd known how far this would spiral, I'd have started packing right then. But I still thought I could fix it. Big mistake. The doorbell rang, pulling me out of my thoughts. It was our neighbor, Paul, a retired mechanic with a voice like gravel and a habit of dropping by unannounced. He stood on the porch, holding a wrench he'd borrowed last week. "Figured you'd want this back," he said, handing it over. He glanced past me, into the quiet house. "Everything okay?" Heard the door slam. I took the wrench, tossing it onto the counter. Just Sarah being Sarah. She's got a new hobby, making me the bad guy. Paul chuckled, scratching his beard. "Sounds like my ex. Always had to be the one calling the shots. You let that go too long. It's a hole you can't climb out of." I nodded, leaning against the doorframe. "Not planning to. She wants to play games, she's playing alone." He raised an eyebrow, like he was sizing me up. "Good. Don't let her think she's got you on a leash. You need a beer? Come by later." "Thanks, man," I said, closing the door as he walked off. His words stuck with me. Don't let her think she's got you. I wasn't begging for Sarah's approval anymore. If she wanted to push, I'd push harder. Later that day, I drove to the hardware store to pick up paint for the guest room. Sarah had been on me about redecorating for months, so I figured I'd get ahead of her complaints. Take the initiative, cut off her next jab. The store smelled like sawdust and motor oil, and Mike, the guy at the counter with a beard like steel wool, gave me a nod as I dropped 2 cans of eggshell white on the counter. "Wife's got you working." "Huh," he said, punching the order into the register. I forced a laugh, but it came out flat, trying to keep things calm. Mike slid the receipt across, his eyes squinting. "Calm's overrated, man. Respect lasts longer." I tucked the receipt in my pocket, the words hitting harder than I expected. Respect. When had Sarah stopped giving it? When had I stopped demanding it? I carried the cans to my truck, the weight of them grounding me. No more chasing her approval. I was done playing by her rules. Back home, Sarah was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, legs tucked under her. No groceries in sight. I set the paint cans by the stairs, the metal clanking against the floor. "Got the paint," I said, keeping my voice even. "You want to pick a day to start?" She didn't look up, just kept swiping. "You're actually doing it? I thought you'd just talk about it for another month." I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. I don't talk, Sarah. I do. Unlike some people who think complaining's a full-time job. Her head snapped up, eyes narrowing. Excuse me? What's that supposed to mean? You heard me, I said, holding her gaze. I'm starting tomorrow. You in, or you just gonna sit there judging? She hesitated, her fingers hovering over her phone. Whatever, Tom. Just don't make a mess I have to clean up. I turned, heading to the garage to sort my tools. Don't worry. I clean up my own messes. That was the first crack, her dismissiveness, the way she acted like I was a hired hand, not her husband. I wasn't going to beg for her respect. If she wanted to play this game, I'd change the board. Monday night, we were at Murphy's bar with our usual crew. Jake, a lawyer with a laugh like a foghorn, was halfway through a story about a client who'd tried to bribe a judge. His wife, Lisa, was giggling, her wine glass tipping dangerously. Brian, the IT guy, was nursing a beer, his eyes scanning the room like he was waiting for a server crash. Sarah was in her element, all smiles, tossing her hair, ordering martinis like she was starring in a movie. I was fine with it, until she turned it on me. So, Tom, she said, leaning back in her chair, her glass dangling between her fingers, you ever gonna finish that deck you keep talking about? Or is it just another one of your projects? The table went quiet. Jake paused, his hands frozen mid-gesture. Lisa's laugh cut off, her eyes darting to me. Brian's beer stopped halfway to his mouth. I took a slow sip of mine, letting the silence stretch. It's half done, I said, my voice calm but deliberate. Unlike your yoga phase. What was it, 3 classes before you quit? Or was it 2? Lisa snorted, covering her mouth. Jake grinned, leaning forward. Ooh, shots fired. You gonna take that, Sarah? Sarah's smile twitched, but she leaned in, doubling down. Oh, come on, I'm just teasing. Tom's so sensitive. I set my beer down, the bottle clinking against the table. Teasing's fine, Sarah. But you don't get to rewrite history in front of people. I work, I build, I deliver. You want to talk projects? Let's talk about the kitchen remodel you begged for, and then ignored. Brian finally spoke, his voice low but pointed. Sounds like Tom's pulling more than his weight. Maybe ease up, Sarah. Her eyes flashed, but she laughed it off, waving her hand. Okay, relax, everybody. It's just a joke. I leaned forward, my voice steady. It's not a joke when you're trying to make me look small. Try it again, and we're done here. Lisa shifted in her seat, her glass clinking against the table. Okay, let's not turn this into a soap opera. Jake, finish your story. Jake jumped back in, but the air was thicker now. Sarah didn't say much for the rest of the night, but I could feel her glaring, like she was recalculating. Brian caught my eye as we left, giving me a small nod. You handled that, he said quietly. Outside, as we walked to the car, Sarah grabbed my arm. You didn't have to call me out in front of everyone. I pulled my arm free, unlocking the driver's side door. You didn't have to take a swing at me in front of our friends. You chose to. I responded. That's how this works. She got in, slamming the door. You're making this bigger than it is. I started the engine, the rumble filling the silence. No, Sarah. You're making it small. Keep it up, and you'll see how big it gets. The next morning, I took the first real step. Sarah had a habit of planning our weekends without asking. Dinners with her friends, errands she'd decide I'd run. I was done with her script. So, I got up early, grabbed my laptop, and booked a solo fishing trip for the next weekend. No discussion, no permission. Just done. I was in the garage, packing my gear, when she came downstairs, her coffee mug in hand. Where are you going? She asked, her voice tight, like she'd already decided I was wrong. Fishing, I said, zipping up my bag. Next Saturday. Be gone a couple days. She set her mug down, the ceramic clinking against the counter. You didn't tell me. Didn't know I needed to. I said, checking the tackle box. You've got your girls' night, right? Figured I'd do my thing. Her eyes narrowed. So, what? You're just gonna disappear? What about the dinner with my coworkers? I stood, slinging the bag over my shoulder. You planned that without me. Handle it without me. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. You're being a jerk, Tom. I looked at her, my face blank. No, Sarah. I'm being clear. You don't get to schedule my life and then complain when I make my own plans. Your choice. She didn't answer, just turned and walked back inside. I headed to the truck, the weight of the bag feeling lighter than the conversation. That was the second signal. She wasn't used to me moving first. I wasn't begging for her sign-off anymore. I was setting my own terms. A week later, we were at her parents' house for dinner. The dining room smelled like rosemary and old wood, the table set like it was Thanksgiving. Diane, Sarah's mom, was fussing over a roast, her hands fluttering nervously. Ed, her dad, was pouring wine, his Navy stories filling the air. Sarah's sister, Claire, was there with her husband, Greg, who mostly stared at his plate. I was on edge, not because of the food or the company, but because Sarah had been ramping up all week, digs about my job, my schedule, even the way I parked the car. It was like she was daring me to snap. Midway through dinner, as Ed was recounting a shipyard brawl, Sarah cut in, her voice light but sharp. Tom's been so busy with his projects, he probably doesn't even hear half of what you're saying, Dad. The room went quiet. Diane paused, her fork hovering. Ed stopped, his eyes flicking to me. Claire smirked, leaning back in her chair. Greg's fork scraped his plate, but he didn't look up. I set my glass down, the ice clinking, and leaned back. Funny, I said, my voice steady. I hear just fine. Like when you said you'd handle the bills last month and didn't. Or when you promised to show up to my work event and bailed. Should I keep going? Sarah's smile froze, her fingers tightening on her wine glass. Diane tried to smooth it over. Oh, you two always teasing. No teasing here, I said, looking at Sarah. Just keeping it honest. You don't get to take shots at me in front of your family and call it cute. Try it again, and I'm out the door. Claire let out a low whistle. Damn, Tom. Didn't know you had that in you. Greg finally looked up, his voice quiet but firm. He's got a point, Sarah. You don't get to throw jabs and expect a smile. Sarah's cheeks flushed, but she forced a laugh. You're making a scene, Tom. No, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm setting a boundary. You don't get to disrespect me in public and expect me to play along. Your call. Ed nodded, his face grim but approving. Diane busied herself with the salad, her hands shaking. Sarah didn't speak for the rest of the meal, but I could feel her glaring. After dinner, as we cleared the table, Ed pulled me aside in the hallway, his voice low. You did right, Tom. She's my daughter, but she's pushing too far. Don't let her walk over you. I nodded, gripping his hand. Appreciate it, Ed. I'm not here to be anyone's doormat. He clapped my shoulder, his eyes steady. Good man. Stay sharp. In the car, Sarah tried to start a fight. You embarrassed me in front of my family, she said, her voice sharp. I kept my eyes on the road, the streetlights flashing by. You embarrassed yourself. I just made it clear I'm not your punching bag. You're overreacting, she snapped, crossing her arms. I pulled into our driveway, turning to her. No, Sarah, you're underestimating. Keep pushing, and you'll see what happens. I got out, grabbed my keys, and went inside. She didn't follow right away. Let her sit with it. The next few weeks were a chess game. Sarah didn't back off, she doubled down. Her jabs got sharper, her control tighter. She'd forget to tell me about plans, then guilt me for not showing up. She'd make big decisions, like booking a Napa vacation I didn't want, without asking. She'd drop lines like, if you were more ambitious, we wouldn't be stuck like this, then laugh it off like it was nothing. Each time, I didn't argue. I acted. First, I opened a separate bank account. Didn't tell her. Moved half our savings and rerouted my paycheck. 2 weeks later, she cornered me in the living room, her phone in hand, the banking app open. What's this, Tom? She said, her voice shaking with anger. You moved our money. I was on the couch, flipping through a woodworking magazine. Half of it. You make decisions without me, so do I want access? Start asking, not demanding. She stepped closer, her shadow falling over the pages. This is our marriage, not a business deal. I closed the magazine, meeting her eyes. Then act like it. You don't get to spend my money like it's your piggy bank and expect me to nod along. She threw her hands up. You're impossible. No, I said, standing. I'm done. You want to play power games, you're playing alone. She didn't apologize, she never did. But she went quiet for a few days, her silence louder than her words. I didn't trust it. So, I canceled our joint credit card. Not out of spite, out of necessity. If she wanted control, she'd do it without my resources. The company barbecue was next. A sunny Saturday, the air thick with charcoal and cut grass. My boss, Karen, was there, along with co-workers and their spouses. Sarah was charming everyone, her laugh carrying across the backyard. I was talking to Karen about a project when Sarah walked over, a plate of ribs in her hand. "Tom's not much for socializing," she said, loud enough for Karen and a coworker, Steve, to hear. "He'd rather be in his garage tinkering than talking to people." Karen raised an eyebrow, her pen pausing. Steve, a sales guy with a loud laugh, chuckled. "Ouch, Tom. She got you there?" I set my beer down, the wood creaking under my hand. "If I'm so boring, Sarah, why do you keep showing up to these things?" "Oh, right. Because you like the free drinks and playing Queen Bee." Karen laughed, sharp and genuine. Steve raised his glass. "Point to Tom." Sarah's smile faltered, but she recovered. "It's a joke, Tom. Lighten up." I stepped closer, my voice low but clear. "It's not a joke when you're trying to make me look small in front of my boss. You want to play that game? Play it somewhere else." Karen cleared her throat, changing the subject, but Steve leaned in later, his voice low. "Man, she's got some nerve. You okay?" I nodded, sipping my beer. "I'm handling it." That night, I packed a bag and checked into a hotel. No warning, no explanation. At the hotel bar, a guy named Dave, a regular with a faded Marines tattoo, noticed my mood. "Rough day?" he asked, sliding a coaster my way. "Rough marriage," I said, swirling my whiskey. "She thinks she can push me around." "She's wrong." Dave nodded, his eyes steady. "Set the line now, or you'll be drawing it forever." Sarah texted, "Where are you? This is ridiculous." I replied, "I'm done being your punchline. Figure it out." When I got home Monday, Sarah was waiting, arms crossed. "You can't just leave like that." I dropped my bag. "I can. And I will. Every time you try to make me look small. Your choice." The final straw came at another dinner at her parents' house. Sunday, the air thick with pot roast and tension. Sarah had been dropping hints about needing space all week, never saying it outright. I was done guessing. As we passed the mashed potatoes, she let it slip, the line that broke everything. "I chose with my heart, not my head," she said, smirking at Claire. "Now I'm regretting it." The room froze. Ed's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Diane's eyes widened, darting to me. Claire bit her lip, trying not to laugh. Greg's knife scraped his plate. I set my glass down, the ice clinking, and stood, my chair scraping the floor. "You regret it?" I said, my voice calm but cold. "Good to know. Makes this easier." Sarah's smirk vanished. "Tom, sit down. You're overreacting." I grabbed my jacket, turning to Ed and Diane. "Thanks for dinner. I'm done here." Sarah stood, her voice sharp. "You're walking out?" "In front of everyone." I paused at the door. "You've been walking over me for years, Sarah. I'm done letting you. Enjoy your control. It's all you've got left." Claire spoke up, her voice sharp. "Sarah, you kinda brought this on yourself." Greg nodded. "He's right. You can't keep poking and expect him to take it." Diane reached for Sarah's arm. "Honey, maybe you should." Sarah yanked her arm away. "Stay out of it, Mom." I walked out, the door clicking shut. In the car, I called my lawyer. Papers were filed by morning. 6 months later, I'm in a new house, small, but mine. The garage smells of sawdust and varnish, my woodworking projects taking shape. I fish most weekends, sometimes with Brian, who's better company than I thought. Work's solid. Karen promoted me after the barbecue, said she liked my backbone. Last week, Brian and I grabbed beers at Murphy's. Jake was there, too, quieter than usual. "Heard from Sarah?" he asked, peeling the label off his bottle. "Nope," I said, leaning back. "She's dating some guy, per Claire." "Good for her. I'm done caring." Brian nodded. "You walked away clean, man. Not many do." Sarah tried calling during the divorce, left voicemails I deleted. At the lawyer's office, she tried one last jab as I signed the papers. "You're really throwing this away, Tom?" I slid the pen across the desk. "You threw it away, Sarah. I just stopped catching." That was it. No drama, no yelling. Just the truth, and a door closed for good. If you made it this far, that means the story spoke to you. Please consider subscribing, leaving a like, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. It really means a lot to me, more than you know. These stories take time to write, and your support helps me keep going. Thank you for listening all the way through. Until next time.